mention her name. I threw my hat and thought you could have been love.
12-13-3. Take it I'm supposed to meet with you guys. Alright.
How's it going?
Good. I have to tell you I have to record everything. You probably assume that nowadays, but...
I pretty much assume that.
What's going on?
Yeah, so this is a ingress easement that we and the people down the road get to maintain, but this portion here is my property, and my property goes over the hill there to the end of the fence line as it crosses over. And my neighbor, unfortunately, has taken it upon himself to start digging on my property and has now removed earth and taken it to an undisclosed location. And he's also taken some, looks like a tree or something like that, and thrown it over one of my fences and sort of collapsed it down. And we don't have any written agreement. There's no approval that this should happen. This is a egress and ingress, and there is maintenance requirements to that, but the removal of dirt and sort of the molestation of my property is not permitted as far as I know.
Is it right
So
here, or do we have to drive?
it's just past there, if you'd like to walk down there.
Yeah, let me shut the car off. Yeah, probably. This guy has nothing to do with you? Alright.
So my property is from this fence line there, running.
You're over here?
And this, yes, that's
Okay.
mine as well. And this down here is all mine as well. Now this is part of a ingress egress, but it is my property. That's this down through here, and this on the right side here.
Makes sense.
And I noticed my neighbor up here was digging on the land and has removed some earth, and I would like that to stop. There's no
Issues with your neighbor at all?
No, not until this.
Have you talked to him about it at all? Or?
We've had our recent exchange changes, but we have no agreements. There's not been any issues thus far. It's been sort of amenable. Amicable, I guess. So, this was where I noticed the digging to start occur. The excavator and a dump truck were parked here. We're scraping this. This is all my best knowledge of my land up again until this fence. And my land ends about in line with this tree stump down here. There's a fence that runs that way. So basically, it's my understanding that about from up here is all my property with an ingress and egress easement. And then it looks like some trees were ripped out, removed, I'm guessing from over here, and then kind of thrown on my fence here.
Okay.
Not in the greatest repair, but I've been working on that recently, trying to get that repaired. And so none of this occurred with any approval or from me.
Okay. So, me as a cop, I can only go by a couple things. Survey is rough.
Yep.
But if there is one, I can go by it. If there's stakes, but there's obviously, it doesn't appear to be stakes.
Probably
right?
not.
Okay. I'm not.
There's GIS info, but that's
what I'm looking at here. So the only other way I can do, and I'm not saying that this is accurate.
Understood.
Nor is a survey accurate, right?
Understood. Yeah.
So all
That's
I
a
can
whole
go
other
by,
level.
exactly. All I can go by is just my best info that I can. So according to this is the county survey, and if you look, his property right now, I'm standing in the middle of your guys' two properties.
Let's see. This would be that property?
Correct. Yep.
And this property.
Correct.
So this neighbor is actually, this property is what I'm worried about. So This is the angled property line if you look at it.
So yeah, right here.
This is, yeah, that angled property line is running right here. So if we kept walking down the way, there's your survey lines.
Yeah, what I'm saying though is like, from where I'm sitting right now,
Uh-huh.
it appears like if I come over here, I'm well into his property.
Okay, Nancy's property, this property over here.
Correct.
Okay.
So whoever, this isn't his either?
No.
Okay. All right. So Nancy's the one that has a complaint,
Correct.
not you.
Well, that I don't know, but
Okay.
If that were, but that would fall.
But see, part of the problem is that you can see where the road is, right? So, I mean, you're not wrong,
Right.
but the county info may be wrong or what have you. So,
Right.
but all I can do is buy, I mean, my best info that I have.
Which is this.
Which is,
Uh-huh.
yeah, or stakes if you have it. So, so I can talk to Nancy. Who's Nancy? Do you know her?
She lives over that way.
Oh, Nancy Parks.
I've got a
Okay.
phone number for you.
I mean, if she has a disagreement with it, then I can talk to it. So the second one then, issue, and this is all yours here, it
Yes,
looks
that's
like,
all
yeah.
mine.
So obviously throwing that crap up there is not,
Yes.
so I do agree with that. And then where does he live?
Right down over here.
So he's on the angled property then down in here?
Yes.
Okay, gotcha. Okay. All right.
Now we've had there have been some others where some fences have been removed and elsewhere. That's not necessarily part of this. What I'm concerned about is this, and it is my understanding survey-wise, and I get that you have to go by what you got.
Yeah.
And this is for backside of the entire thing.
Yeah, I get you.
This is part of my property line here because this road, this portion of the road is an easement that lies on my property, and the center of it has a certain, I think it's like 15 feet or something like that, or 25 feet from center, basically, that says that. So, but that aside, that's something else.
Well, and that's what I was going to say. The easiest way, if you guys have, the easiest way for us to enforce this is if you guys have, you and Nancy agree that this is not permitted, then it's easy for me because I know it's not his.
Or have a survey line put in.
Well, I know it's not his, right?
Right.
So that's my only issue. And I kind of, if you look, I mean, man, it's hard to tell in here, but you can see that the road, I think the road on the marker is a little off too. It should be over.
Could be.
I mean, you can kind of tell by the, I mean, actually get rid of the parcel info.
Well, if that's the case, that's the case. That's something for the backside. But I need to have sort of the
Yep.
excessive sort of
You know what
overzealous
I
work
get you.
being done
I get you.
to put to a stop. I've had some issues with my fence lines down here and some other stuff, so I think we want to move forward with making sure that doesn't continue. And
So
then
why
if-
did he bring it? Does he have an excavator?
He does, yeah. He runs,
okay.
I think, a business out of his home down here with heavy equipment and whatnot.
Gotcha. Okay, so he didn't just rent it.
No. So this is probably going to be an ongoing issue at this point. So I would like it to see it stop on my property until this has been rectified as far as where this property line is, if that's what needs to happen.
And like I said, the easiest way for you is to either you and Nancy agree that that's your property, then I'm okay with that.
Right.
Or she says she doesn't want this either,
Right.
because then I know it's not his.
Right.
I just can't.
But either way, this property right here has nothing to do with that parcel.
With him,
Yes,
correct.
correct.
Yep. So I mean, yeah, I would say it looks like that stuff's been there for quite some time. So is he trying to get like a, do you know the reason why?
They want to recontour this road. They want to actually move, it's my understanding, quite a bit here, and the discussions have not proceeded as they would like. So we've just started working on this without any formal agreement or any understood proposals or scope of work being put in place that
Okay.
all parties agree upon. Now this is, like I said, this is an ingress egress. I am responsible for the maintenance of this portion of the ingress and egress that lies on my property. But it is not my understanding that other people can just come on and start moving and doing as they see please, unless there's something in the way. In which case PUD, I think, holds the easement for maintenance and things like that.
Okay. So when it comes to specifically that, we have very little enforcement authority. So what happens, this is a little bit different because there could be damage, and it's obviously a significant variation of what it was.
Yes.
But when it comes to like grading, maintaining gravel, I have to have a court order.
Understood.
So you go to the court.
To stop, you mean?
Correct. And if they have a court order that says, he has to cease and desist, he can't come here, that then gives us the teeth to enforce it.
Okay, that makes sense.
So it's just,
That's
I'm
all
not
public
smart
right
enough.
of ways.
I'm not smart enough to read all that stuff and tell you what. And as you know, there could be 8 other documents that you don't even know about.
Oh, there's a host of easements that apply to this road, dating all the way back to like 1945.
Exactly.
So and a lot of them are really poorly written, and it takes sort of with the GIS info a lot.
Yep.
Northwest, southwest quarter, 28, blah, blah, blah. Okay, but so this aside, until that's established, the destruction of my property as it's continuing, I would like to see.
Yeah, I'll talk to him about that and figure out what's going on, because obviously that
can't happen.
should not happen.
And then there's some other, like I said, issues along my fence line to the east here that also needs to cease.
Okay.
Not really pertinent to today's issue. It's just been a historic problem.
Okay.
So it's sort of a cease. I'll deal with that. But a complaint about this stuff can't continue to encroach on my property, as it were. If that makes sense.
Yeah, and again, those are a little bit difficult as far as, is he like tearing the fence down, or what's he doing?
Portions of it, I believe, are gone. Now he told me that he had removed a portion of it and that he'd left some stakes in place or something like that. So
Okay.
but it was it needs repair. I'm not saying it's the nicest fence, but it is my fence, and it needs to be maintained.
And that's where it's probably more of a lawyer thing that is going to get on that, because I'm sure what he's going to say, is number one, where's the stakes? Whose fence is it?
Yes, I know.
And as you know, it means this much on whose fence it is.
I think that's the goal here, is to get a survey forced into this, and I think that's I think that's the overall goal here. If I were to imply a motive, but this destruction and vandalism on my property needs to stop. The illegal dumping needs to stop, and no further molestation on my property. And
I will talk to him about that. Okay. And then, so this is not where your property ends,
right?
No,
it's down here. This is like
why did they do that? Oh, just to stop it, the back of it.
There's they used to corral cattle up in here or something.
Yeah, is that wood panel? All right. Are actually grown into the tree?
Some of it.
Yeah.
It's old fence. I've got on my south line, there's actual alders that are like in the fence. That's a whole other issue.
Okay.
I'm talking with the
Is he home?
He's just standing right there.
Oh.
Right. Yeah.
So you're this guy?
Yeah.
Well, thank you for being so understanding. I didn't realize. I thought he was over there. Okay. So do you get the point, or what's going on, or do you?
Well, I mean, I talked to an attorney about all this stuff beforehand.
Okay.
Because we have private road maintenance agreement that applies to these two parcels, and the attorney makes it clear that like we have right to maintain and bring the road in good working order, and part of achieving that is achieving slopes that are within National Fire Protection Agency guidance as well as county guidance, reducing blind spots, etc. And so we're trying to achieve that. We spoke to all of the dominant easement owners, as he's a servient easement owner, much like I am on the stretch of land that runs through my property.
Okay.
And all of those people have contributed to the repair of this. Another person on the road, he's taking the lead on it. I'm assisting him. He's just at a doctor's appointment right now. He's going to be coming here probably in the next 10 or 15 minutes. He's a retired road building guy, and he's done all the, he's an engineer from that perspective. And so he went around and got, permission or, requests from, contribution from all the owners on the road. And we didn't burden Eric with any kind of financial request, because he doesn't use this portion of the road, so we weren't going to ask him for any nickels, and even though the private road maintenance agreement says that it should, but we weren't going to ask any nickels for that. Sam did go try and talk to Eric 3 or 4 weeks ago, most formally, and spoke to his mom, who's the property owner. She referred us to Eric. Eric has then briefly spoke with Sam and insisted a scope of work and some staking. Sam did the staking and created the scope of work and delivered it to him along with a copy of the private road maintenance agreement that gives us this permission to do. Since then it's just been no response, and it was done as a courtesy, as you know, the road needs to be maintained in good standards. The only way that we're going to improve the condition of the road is by getting the water off of the road. You know, just like the county road out there, it's got a crown to it. You can't do that if the ditches are the road. So, and to remove the blind spot as requested by firefighters and paramedics, because they see it as a very challenging road. It traps people in during the winter, and they have to park on his property to be able to walk their way out from their property. So by changing the slope and grade of this hill is the intent to achieve, you know, emergency access, ingress, egress, etc. Spoke to an attorney about all this stuff over the past couple of months, just to confirm before we started work that, you know, we're within our rights, and that this private road maintenance agreement that he reviewed and looked at the easements, which is 60 foot wide. Utilities one is 60 foot. I think the road one is 50 feet, but 6 1/2 dozen. The road meanders through the easement that was created by previous parcel owners. You know, some said years ago, but it's handed down. You know, we attempted to communicate verbally, and then the gate was shut, so we couldn't even communicate verbally. We sent letters and no response. And yeah, so the weather is right. We have support from all of the neighbors that are dominant users of, or dominant owners of this easement, and you know, we're ready to proceed. Like, it's the time of our schedule to achieve this work. You know, as far as the removal of dirt, we'd love to put the dirt at the closest place possible, but we've had haven't heard back from anybody as to how to achieve doing that the best way for this person. But yeah, so, and as far as like the fence line, like, it's my fence too. It's our fence, and I'm slated to get a survey done. I haven't there's no motive. I think the right thing to do is to survey a line, because the survey is what legally defines
They got to put a
what
new fence in.
property
Is that the
lines.
plan?
Yeah, that would be my intent, is to put in it, you know. I don't like fences personally. Like, I just want to know where the line is so that I can stay away from it and plant on my side and plant nothing on his side, you know. I don't want to be on his side. He doesn't want to be on my side. That's good. I want a survey to reflect that, and there's never been one for this property. The whole big chunk used to be owned by the old dude that signed this and gave a chunk to his daughter, and they arbitrarily put a fence line in and kind of measured some stuff, but nothing's ever been recorded or surveyed. So just want to get it surveyed and get it accurate, and we're going to do that this summer, along with NWI doing all of their surveying for the land they just bought all around us.
Who's been here longer? Yeah. You both about the same time or different?
Well, no, I think you've been at this parcel longer. I've been on the lane longer.
Okay. So typically the neighborly thing to do is, like, this is always an issue, and this is not legal at all, but it's always the neighborly thing to do is whoever is the one here the least amount of time and wanting to conduct changes is the one that does the survey.
Okay,
right?
so that's why Sam did that.
Okay.
And Sam's been here for 28 years or 32 years, something like that, on this
it's just
road.
the neighborly thing to do. It's not like the court's going to make you do that,
Right.
but if we're going to make changes and you've been here less, you probably should have a survey before it's done. And that's what we usually recommend. Now, as far as this, that's a completely different story. Because I'll tell you right now, this is probably the easiest one. I mean, I've never sat and talked to two guys like that. I didn't know you were this guy over here. And you guys obviously are men and can talk in one spot, which is rare for these things. When I come to these, neighbors are screaming at each other, right? Right now is as cheap as this is ever going to get. And that's why it is in both of your interests to, like, work it out, because lawyers, everything else, just adds a ton of money, and at the end, nobody's going to be happy. I mean, I'll tell you right now.
Sure.
Usually at the end of a civil case, you're ticked off about half of it, and you're ticked off about half of it, and the only people that win are the people you paid, right? So, you know, it's behoove you to try to figure that out and try to make it as much, you know, both of your intent as possible. You probably heard that probably shouldn't be up there.
Yeah, it was staged there, and then I was chased off, and I just I said, okay, I'll wait till the sheriff comes. It's
Okay.
just staged there so that I can dispose of it properly,
Okay.
and so that traffic could get by.
Yeah. Now, as far as law enforcement concerned, this is a little bit questionable for if Nancy wants to complain about it, not necessarily for you, because I can't prove that that's your property. If you want to take steps towards that, you need to file an order or something that would make us be able to stop that. But that being said, that's when the dollar bills start coming out too.
Sure.
So as far as crowning the road and stuff, I won't be able to stop that. There's nothing that says I can or can't do that until the court tells me what to do. That being said, like I said, right now is as cheap as this gets.
Sure, sure.
And I've done this a lot, and what happens is neighbors fight, and then the dollar bills start going, and then nobody wins. You have an old fence that's broken down, you have a road that's all nasty, you have lost some money in your bank account, and what do you get out of it, right? And then you got two neighbors that don't like each other.
All right. And we have been good. You good?
Yeah, I'm good.
We've been amenable neighbors. I've appreciated when I first moved in here. There were some trees that were hanging over our building, and I wanted to just trim some limbs. And he said, it'd probably be smarter if we just take the whole tree out. And I was really appreciative of that. I appreciate that. That's a good thing, And he's always been a conscientious neighbor about how he does his target shooting and stuff like that. And I've always appreciated that. And so we have had a good working relationship up to this point. Could you preside over this discussion a little bit? How we could move forward on this?
I'll be here,
yeah.
but I can't.
Because
all I can do is keep the peace. I'm not gonna. I'm just telling you that's how it ends. In the
Sure.
one piece that to be. This is I've been doing this job 24 years. It's probably the first time I've actually had a good conversation with two people like this close.
Well, cool.
Usually people are yelling, right? And I gotta send one guy down that way, another guy down that way.
I think both of us recognize that that's a waste of time for both
Okay,
of us.
awesome. So, and to be honest, the one thing that will be difficult for you in court would be everybody down the street, right? Because they all probably want the improvement. So you have presumably one person that doesn't, 6 people that do. I don't know how many people, 9. So it's something to think about, that, like I said, as far as dollar-wise, this is the cheapest it ever gets.
All very reasonable considerations.
Okay.
All things that I weigh when it comes to this. And that's not really the question here. The question isn't whether or not things need to be maintained. It's the manner and process in which they're going about attaining them. Trashing the property or removal prior to an agreement is more my concern. And I think that's an appropriate professional response to a situation like this, especially considering there's a number of people that are interested, if that's the case.
So would you be willing to discuss what this could look like so we can move forward?
Like I've said before, before you kind of put words in my mouth, especially with Sam, I never asked for staking or anything like that. I wanted a written proposal and to move on from there in a legal and professional manner. That's all. That was the entire thing, not just haphazardly start digging because it's convenient for us today. And that isn't a reasonable way to approach a road maintenance agreement.
Did Sam not deliver a scope of work to you?
There was a very poorly written scope of work that had a whole mess of stuff on it. It was not adequate as far as I'm concerned. That's neither here nor there right
But nobody
now.
responded. You didn't
We
respond.
don't have an obligation for time to respond. I know you want it occurring like right now, but there's no obligation to respond. There's no time limit set unless there's a legal service of process that has to happen. If you serve me with papers and then there's certain benchmarks that can be made after that, that's a whole other question. But if you just send me a letter with some hand scribbled stuff about what you want to do, that is no
It wasn't
obligation.
hand scribbled, it was typed. It
It was typed, it was
Word
hand
document.
scribbled, it was a mess. Okay, and I don't know what the actual scope of what's going to happen here. And this does impact my property, not just the road, because now you have water and engineering that needs to occur here. So my interests are much more than just, I just don't want this to happen. It's not about that. This is about just doing things because the neighbors feel like they should. And those boundaries, like fences, those property rights boundaries need to be maintained and respected. That's why fences are there. That's why easements and agreements are made. And that's what I'm trying to maintain here. If you want to come at me with a professional, written, discussed plan, I'm all for it. But the manner in which this has been handled, whether it's the tearing down of the fence, some of the other things that have occurred, you need to come at this with a professional, and it's not just like run pell-mell and start moving dirt, because I am 100%, 99.9% sure that that land is mine. Now, I know we can't verify that, but I'm positive that is, and you can't just go screwing with it just because you feel like it. And even in still, if it's Nancy's property, have you checked with her? Did she see the scope of work? Did
I've
she
talked
see
to
that?
Nancy. She doesn't care.
We don't know now whose property line that is, and until that's established, nobody can make the decision here. Then, if that's the case. Anyway,
Sheriff, this is the challenging part. Like we're trying to achieve something that befits standards and access for people, right? That agree to wanting improved access.
And I think that's the problem
But
with
we're
your
coming
word
up
there.
against principles.
I know, but that's the problem with your word there, is it's improved. So that's where it becomes, he's a little, in my opinion, again, this isn't,
Sure.
and don't take this as quote, but you're improving what was already here, right? You bought a piece of property with the road the way it is, and now you want to change that. And he does have a point in that if you want to change it and make it better or whatever you want to do, you know, it is contrary to what was already here and established.
Well,
Therefore, you know, does he have a legal right?
I've been a dominant owner longer than him, because I've been on this road for 20
Well, I get
years.
it, but the road's been this way for 20 years.
And the road has wanted to improve it for 21 years.
I get you. I'm not saying it's not, I'm not saying that, again, that it's not the right way to do it or to improve it. It's just legally, I mean, that brings in a lot more questions, right? Because it's changing the earth. It's changing what the road looks like. It's changing where the water goes. It changes everything, right?
I don't even know that it falls within the maintenance agreements that this level of work. This is not a maintenance, this is improvement. That's a totally different word when it comes to a legal set of process.
And what I would suggest for you is to, you know, maybe get a lawyer and talk to them.
Well, this
and
is
then,
part of it.
Okay.
Because I've obviously, this is not where I wanted this to go. I had hoped that this would take a different trajectory, but here we are today, and this is the beginning stages of that as it becomes necessary, because we can't have this continuing to happen.
Now, he did admit, you know, he obviously admitted to that, said he'd move it, so.
Yeah, I get it.
I mean, I respect it. It sounds like he will.
Oh yeah, I want to make this road look good.
And I'm not going to push that.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to waste anybody's time, including your valuable time, because you've got or Tim's valuable time in doing the things that will help the road for the long term, but they need to be handled appropriately and properly, and that's the drive here. Not just have pell-mell do whatever I want on other people's property.
So how do you want him to handle it
what does
properly?
professional look like?
A written agreement,
And
a proposal, a proper proposal, insurance, maintenance, emergency vehicle plan, dates. All of these things need to be established, not only for me, but for the rest of the people down the road. Your friend Peter Bales is going to be running a power line down through here come June, and they've put together a package with those things in mind.
Peter's not doing this. Peter's doing that down there.
I know not this. I'm talking about the power line problem that they have going on down there. But they've come up and he's got a package put together, a host of professional documents. Here's what's going to happen. Here's the dates. Here's what's going to happen. And here's why it can happen. This is not that. And this is my property. Somebody comes in
Would
and
you like to
spills
see
and
the statement
takes
of work that he was the scope of work?
No.
Like it would be clearly defining what the scope of work is.
I'm not a judge when it comes to that.
Sure.
If he's not happy with it, then.
But how are we supposed to know he's happy with it other than he shuts his gate and puts up a private property sign and won't respond to anybody? There's no response, Eric.
There's
like,
no
what are we supposed to do?
And
that's
I get
what I
that,
get. You keep saying that it's
there's
you
no
don't
obligation.
have to respond in any sort of time, but
On this maintenance agreement, was there a defined scope of time that says that? Is there a definite time that's specified?
It doesn't-
Unless there's, I mean, we don't have to keep you.
I'm just here trying to, keep the peace. So I get it. I mean, but here's the kicker: is that this is what court looks like, right?
I understand. Yeah.
And and the difference is court. It's going to be in the middle somewhere, and it's going to cost both of you money.
I think
Right? And it's
what my attorney advised was that being how there's a majority of dominant owners
I
that
agree.
are in full support of improving road access throughout the year, that weighs heavily in our benefit, that the negative impacts are negligible, if any, and
I don't disagree
They
with you.
only
That's what I
need-
said initially. I don't
Sure.
disagree with you.
yeah, and
Um,
they
but that
Property rights subject to democracy.
exactly, and that means a court.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean he's going to win. And if I was in, looking at this and the, if this is my issue and the neighbor, like I said, I would want this to be, outside of court as much as possible. And that's,
100% agree.
and
100%.
however,
But it can't be handled like this. This is how it gets to places like that.
Yeah,
When
and-
things are happening.
then will you agree to
I'm not-
a timeline that we can discuss and
at
get through
this
these
point,
things?
At this point, all of this has to be on paper. We've gone from.
Okay, will you agree to a
You can, my
timeline?
mailbox is there. You can go through the process to get there, and you can submit to me your proposal and timelines in a proper manner.
Will you
I'm not
agree
going
to a
to
timeline?
I'm not going to engage in a verbal agreement. It's that simple. Not here.
Well, I don't think that there's any reason.
You don't have permission to destroy or vandalize or dump on my property. If this is my property, you don't have permission to remove the earth. And you certainly can't, well, you don't have that permission. If you want to fix potholes, I get that. That makes sense. That's facially on that maintenance agreement. You want to clear ditches, that's facially on the agreement. All things that I could sit there and say, yep, that's on there, maintenance. But when you're talking about improvements, dumping, it's not on there.
Go
And
for
I'll
it.
have to see a written proposal, and you can send it to me. I'm not going to enter into a verbal agreement at this point.
See, you won't agree to any kind of timeliness in which you'll respond or discuss any of these matters.
When I see what it is that you guys have planned, and it's in a professional manner, and I can review it, then I'll have a better idea what it is I'm looking at. Because I don't know what engineering needs to happen. I don't know you. I don't know Sam. I don't know any of these things, and you're just all of a sudden want to come on my property and do stuff. It makes no sense to professionally. I don't want to go to court and 100% no. This I've been through a really nasty divorce and a custody battle.
remember how you lost half?
Well, yeah, but I got my kids though. So.
All right, good.
But so I don't want to do that. But it can't be handled like this. It can't just be like I'm going to show up and start digging on your land, Eric, and you're going to deal with it because this is how it gets there.
Put it this way: if he presents something to you, will you promise to respond to him in one way or another in a couple days, 3 days? Respond.
No, I
Doesn't
can't
mean
promise
yes or
that.
no.
I'm gonna. Well,
It just means, hey,
I will
I'm looking at
review
this.
it, and we'll see. You send me a registered letter, and I'll take a look, and then you can look at it there, and that's your legal set of process. He's got however long before something like that takes effect. I can't agree to a timeline because I have a whole other host of people that I need to discuss, including the deed holder, my
Yeah,
mother.
I'm just saying that part of it is like letting people know that something's happening, right? So one of the things is you send a letter
notice.
and nobody says if he's looking at it, what he's doing, how long it's going to take. I mean, that is something that a neighbor would
And there's
want to know.
legal
So,
process to that. There is.
if you want to go down the legal realm.
Well, but that is part of it. It's not just
Yeah.
it's not just with a lawyer in tow. It's also just a matter of how business is handled. There's requirements according to RCW on how things can progress.
If you go the lawyer route. A
Well-
neighbor is, hey man, I got
Yeah,
your letter. I'll
neighbor is-
give me a second.
Neighbor is clearing and cutting a tree and that sort of stuff.
I agreed.
Okay, not changing
Neighbor
the
is
topography of my
responding
land.
to a neighborly letter and discussion.
If we're talking about limbing a couple trees, hey,
No,
go
a
up there and do
neighborly
that.
thing is to respond to when Sam came and talked to you and delivered you a statement of work.
Hey, what I'm saying is, you gotta kind of like, you guys are men, right? And you've got to put the past away. You know what I mean? And today is a new step forward, right? Don't worry about what Sam did. Start off again, because honestly, it just pisses people off. When's it? Your wife brings up the past all the time.
Jesus Christ.
Exactly. So don't bring it up today. So, and I know it feels good,
Yeah.
but the problem is that also is contrary to effective communication.
Forward
So.
for an improvement, if that's what I want.
Send them. You know what? All you can do is send a good letter. Hopefully you'll do the neighborly thing and go from there. If you're a lawyer, take your lawyer's advice. I can't enforce it at all right now.
yeah.
So, like I said, take your lawyer's advice. And if the court gives us paperwork to enforce, we'll happily do that. But
Here's the third party, but I have to go. So
okay.
Is there any business that needs to be attended to? Thank
No,
you. I
got-
appreciate you showing up.
And you're okay with him moving that stuff, right? Getting it out
Yes,
of
but
there?
that's it. No
Okay.
more.
All right.
No.
All right.
You can send me a written, professionally, proposal, proper proposal, not some hand scratch thing, and I'll consider it. And I'll try and get back to you as soon as I possibly can.
Can you commit to just a week or
I'm
something?
not going to make an agreement verbally or otherwise right now.
All right.
So what are we working now?
Not much.
I'm the road manager.
I'll have to see where that's written on the
I'll
road
give
maintenance.
you a word statement. I sent it in the mail.
This must be Sam.
This is Sam.
Yes.
I put it in the mail. And it was
All right.
You know, Sam's been talking to all the neighbors. He's far more diplomatic than me. I just want to achieve the end, and you know, achieves the end for everybody.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. I get the frustration. I totally do. But just know that, you know, that just means dollars.
Yeah.
And it also not only means dollars, but it also means further, you know,
Alienating a relationship
Correct.
that that's why I left Sam to have the discussion, because
Okay.
I didn't want to be part of it, because it's just it's confusing to me
You're
that,
under obligation to
well, that
maintain this
it has to be all this technical shit. Like,
I get it.
this is rural, and we just want to achieve something, you know, with neighborly activity. But
yeah.
whatever.
I feel you.
Can you tell me about the 500-foot rule on shooting and stuff?
There is no rule. So as long as you're safe.
500-foot rule doesn't apply? How
You
come
have to
it's
have
Washington state law?
500 feet of what, a house?
Yeah, it says it right here.
Show me.
Yeah.
You can look back here any fucking time you want. But you said this is where your right away is.
I'm not trying to be tit for tat, but like tit for tat or whatever. Like, I'm just trying to achieve an end, and
It's down there.
I've always felt that he's been very safe, but God, maybe I don't feel safe anymore with it, and maybe I don't agree with
Want
it.
to make an improvement.
And I want him to be able to do his thing, and I want to be able to do the thing that doesn't affect anybody.
Proper
So
path.
I
I
don't wanna-
understand that, but I am when
Whatever.
the earth is being moved and my property is
Just
being
fire
dumped on and
blind
destroyed.
towards-
No, it ain't gonna be destroyed. I'm gonna grow flowers on it.
You're making improvements on my land.
So yeah, the
It's not
difference is
permissible according to the
this
road
doesn't
maintenance
apply
agreement.
to
It's a
residences
maintenance
because
agreement. It is not
this
an
is
improvement.
on department lands, department managed lands.
So
This is on DNR stuff.
No, it's recreational target
So
shooting.
if you're on a DNR property, you can't shoot within 500 feet of a house. Because if you look at what is recreational target shooting is the
Yeah.
use of a firearm or bow and
Oh, I
arrow on
understood.
targets
And then-
and
and I got
the
your
sighting
little
in of rifles or
printed
other
out piece of
firearms
paper.
on department
There's a lot
managed
of
lands.
questions. I
This is
told
on
you
private land.
immediately with it, and it went to
So
a
that
phone
whole thing
call.
doesn't apply.
So I tried to follow up.
And give it.
Yeah, it's totally legal to shoot in
And that's the
on
way
private
they
property.
work.
You just have to be, usually you have to have an adequate backstop.
Yeah.
And then you also have to, what the crime is called reckless endangerment. So it's the bullet could theoretically
Sure.
hit another house. So if it's done in a way like that, then we can enforce it. But that's only DNR land.
Well, that'll be discussed, but
Yeah.
You
just trying to achieve an end
don't
that
have
achieves everybody's
an
value.
improvement agreement.
So,
No maintenance
I don't disagree.
It's not in code.
This
All
road
right.
has been here
Sad.
since
Hey, good luck.
yeah, thanks for your time, man. Thanks for your
No
time.
problem. Thanks for sitting there
This road
so
has been
patiently.
here through the 90s. This is
Been
a
road
grandfather
through here longer
thing.
than that.
You can
Here a
submit to me a
long
professionally written proposal, and I will consider it in my
I gave you
ability.
a proposal
It
already.
was not sufficient.
You said how much is going to be sufficient?
A professionally written proposal with engineering, with studies, with
Oh,
all of the
yeah.
relevant things, not just some hand or like roughly written thing. This is a major project. It's on my land, and I have every right to know and be privy to the information related to it.
I did. I took you down
You
here
can
and
make
walked it over.
there's a maintenance. Thank you, officer.
Yeah.
When are you going to do the maintenance on that road?
I'll get to it now. How about that? There's your maintenance agreement. You don't have an improvement agreement.
Why won't the, how about this, the fact that the ambulance won't come back here because they're paving the road?
I've never heard from the EMS that this road is unnavigable. I've never heard a thing or seen anything that says ambulance. They have come and gone numerous times over the years.
How come
Never heard
there's
anything.
3 wrecks been here? 3 car wrecks been here?
You know, there's all sorts of wrecks
that safety
everywhere
or
that
not?
don't relate to my property. I don't know. Somebody could be drunk. There could be all kinds of stuff. These are all issues. I understand that there's
But then if I was going to just do it when I did it, is my license good enough for you?
I'm under no timely obligation, and I'm not entering into an agreement at
Is
this
my
point.
license is good enough for you as an engineer?
I don't know your reputation. I don't know your insurance.
50
I don't know
years
any
in
of
a
that
road
stuff.
building.
If there's a maintenance, okay, well, I got lots of information.
All right. My gosh. Jesus.
Where am I supposed to go? I poison myself again. Something in the orange tells me you're never coming home. If you leave today, I'll just stare out the way. Always touches all things around. You got streets and how I hate you. Please turn those headlights around. Please turn those headlights around.
Seattle's only country morning show, The Morning Wolf Pack with Matt McAllister.
A hunter called the cops to ask if he could shoot Sasquatch.